Back to this month's roundtable. I'm Andreas, Senie, your host. Joining this month's roundtable, your all-in-one comprehensive view of what's happening across the real estate industry, straight from some of the industry's earliest technology adopters and foremost experts in technology, brokerage, marketing, government policy, capital, construction, and cybersecurity. As always, this is a 3-month show. Part 1, introductions and what's new for each of our roundtable hosts. Part 2, sector focus. We unpack the past month's biggest news and paradigm shifts. And part 3, what does that all mean for your real estate business? And what can you do for the next 30 days to grow your business ahead of your competition? I'm Andreas, Senie, founder of CRECollaborative, brokerage owner, and technology growth strategist for both the nonprofit and for-profit sectors. And joining me this month is none other than Saul Klein, Realtor Emeritus, CEO San Diego Association of Realtors, the foremost technology adopter, and I dare say that, part of the founding team for what is now Realtor.com. Saul, always a pleasure. Nice to have you back with us.
Yeah, it's great to be back. It's the San Diego MLS.
Thank you, San Diego MLS. Also joining us this month, none other than Dan Wagner, VP Government Relations at Inland Family of Companies, group of companies. I'm just backwards on my words this month. Nice to see you.
Hey, it's great to be here. And I have to tell you, I get a little nervous being on the same show as Saul Klein because he is so smart and he has such a reputation of just being like the rock star that he's the oak tree and I'm the sapling in this commercial real estate world.
What does that make me? And not just me, because last but certainly not least, Becca also joining us, Becca Carlson, past president NICAR and CEO of Carlson Integrated. Becca, nice to have you back as well.
Great to be here.
Here she is. Hey, Becca.
Hey.
And admittedly, Dan, yes, without Saul, there would be no MLS and there would be no Realtor Information Net, no Realtor.com. Where would we be?
Well, Andreas, I have a question for you to start off with. Can you tell the audience where are we with our numbers? What's the
We've surpassed 6,000 a month in tune-ins and downloads. Majority of our audience, and my mom said I had a face for radio. Majority of our audience does tune in audio only, and that's on the record and the replay through our podcast. You can listen to this show anywhere you get your audio and/or ask your smart speaker. With about 300 people tuning into video, that's across YouTube, Facebook, X, and LinkedIn. I think I got that. YouTube.
And overseas, what do we have overseas?
25% of our audience is in fact overseas. We have 4 avid listeners out of Australia that just pop them up every month, but the majority are right there in the UK and Europe. The slight new audience that's coming this year out of Brazil, South America. So it's exciting. I mean, this is a global show. I could not believe it when my former show producer said to me, you can't get to 100 without going to the first one. And we took off. Once we had the right people and the right technology, and I listened to him and you and everyone, all of a sudden the show went from the hundreds to the thousands to 6,000, and we're staying right there at that 6,023 number now, 2 months running. So it's pretty exciting. Truly. Thank you for that.
You are, and Andreas, you are a rock star to make this happen because it's your tenacity that keeps this going, and thank you so much for your hard work and energy.
Without you guys, I wouldn't have the show, and without this show, I'd be insane. No. It is nice to take a moment and sort of not only lean in with you guys, but also take a deep breath and go, okay, not everyone else is feeling the same pressures I'm feeling, because how often do you have such a candid group of early adopters and experts in our respective areas? So again, thank you for that. And thank you to our audience, because without them, we truly wouldn't have this show. And we're going to keep on keeping on as long as they keep tuning in. Please do rate and review us. It really does help. There you go. Regan Mendoza, thank you. Hat tip for everything you did while you were our producer. But part 1, Saul, we're going to go up to you on the Brady Bunch window. How's everything going in your neck of the woods? How's the MLS? How's the latest in technology?
Well, so it's great to be back. It's great to see you, Becca and Dan, and of course Andreas. And it's always fun to do this hour with you all and be able to talk about just about anything we want, regardless of the question you ask. So no, things are fine. It's San Diego. The worst thing that for me is that it rained a couple weeks ago, and the rain is not good for the car wash. But other than that, it's the market's fine. Interest rates are decent. There's a lot of big news in the real estate industry with the acquisition of Anywhere by Compass and the partnership of Compass Anywhere with Redfin and Rocket Mortgage, and the lawsuits between Zillow and Compass and Northwest MLS, and there's just lots of stuff going on. So as I look at kind of the future of real estate, to me, it's all about regulation and consolidation and litigation and legislation. So always something to talk about. I do a program with my buddy John Riley, who's an attorney out in Hawaii, and we talk about the latest litigation that's affecting the industry. And we always think that we're getting to the end of the content, but we're nowhere near the end of the content. So we're and the end of the road is not even in sight. So lots going on. But what I tell my friends in real estate is keep listing, keep selling, do the things that you know how to do, continue to do them, pay attention to what's going on around you, but don't be sidetracked.
Yeah.
Do what you normally do and that you do well, and it'll all work out.
It's funny, the foundations haven't. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Dan, I didn't hear you. So I was going to say the foundations haven't changed, yet so many have forgotten about the foundations. And they've leaned back and they're worried about this war in the Middle East, and they're worried about this and they're worried about that. And what I've noticed is those same people are the ones who don't have new deals to talk about. They don't have any closed deals to talk about. They don't have any new needs, right? So no new clients, no closed deals, no new listings. And why? Not because of the war in the Middle East, because they stopped paying attention to what they did well, which was building networks, right? Growing their relationships and finding pathways to profitability, because there are many. They're quality versus quantity arguments, capital pricing, transactions. Okay, speaking of transactions, capital pricing, and so on. Becca, jumping over to you quickly. How are things going on your side of the fence?
Things are really good. Things are very, very busy. And, I would say that only people whose businesses are growing are interested in marketing. So they're already self-selecting if they're talking to me about their business. It's because there's going to be transition and change in a growth capacity. And, that's what we do in marketing. So I suppose they're already vetted before they come, before they're self-selecting to work with us. But I am seeing we have clients that are deploying capital and very happy to be deploying capital, clients with investment funds, clients with, offering memorandums that are going out for raising capital for syndications. So syndications, funds, and I think that's something that we've been waiting for a long time, is for more transactions to really come into play. And we are seeing that, and we're seeing that very, very consistently. It is exciting with conference season coming up to be able to help clients prepare for that. People are embracing the reality that just showing up at a conference isn't quite enough when you have the ability to tell people you're going to be there and set up meetings in advance and do some of those kind of simple steps of laying the groundwork and the foundation. People do want to maximize their investments when they're doing appearances like that. And so it's fun for me because I just think, oh my gosh, who can we introduce? Who can help? How can we make sure that you are getting the most out of your time traveling and speaking to other people, and what deals can come out of that? So for us, this has been a really exciting time. Building business is always
as it should be, right? Building business, and I almost forgot conference season coming yet again, another year. How could it be here already? But we're as an industry, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of new energy, which is both terrifying and exciting, right? A lot of younger brokers. But I'm going to come back to that disconnect between deals and foundations in just a second. Saul, you touched on regulation, litigation, all things that kind of fall in the realm of the White House and policy and government relations. And I know Dan also has some big news over at Inland to share. So I'm going to scoot over to him for a second. And then we'll
Well,
circle.
I was getting worried that you were going to just gloss over me. You know, I know Saul's better, but God.
No.
Oh, okay.
Sunnier weather in his background, but
well, first of all, it is that time of year where the Wagner household changes decorations to St. Patrick's Day. So we've gone from Valentine's Day to St. Patrick's Day. People from the space station can see my house is green, so that's a big deal. So happy St. Patrick's Day. The thing in Inland, it is so exciting. We are going to be selling our world headquarters here at Oakbrook, and we're going to be moving to Downers Grove. And pretty soon, the people who bought our building will be talking about what they're going to put in this basically 28 acres here in Oakbrook, Illinois. So change is ever present with Inland. And speaking of change, our CEO, Tony Treso, is doing a great job. He's brought in some more new folks. We have a new CEO of our investment division named Matt Freese, who's phenomenal. Before I talked about Lou Kruk, who's in charge of our institutional platform. We're looking at opening up a big institutional platform, hopefully by the fall, which will be for self-storage. And then we have a new global wealth manager that was just hired. So at Inland, there's just so many exciting things going on with new people growing and lots of excitement. We are working really hard for the Delaware Statutory Trust 1031 Like-Kind Exchange. We are developing product everywhere around the country. We're working really, really hard. I'm excited about the future for us and for commercial real estate. People are really looking to deploy their capital in the right places, and if you have the right product, you keep busy. So things are going good for us.
Right. And as far as right product, that's not office, that's industrial, that's mixed use, that's data warehouse.
Self-storage.
Self-storage.
Student housing. The other thing is assisted living facilities, because obviously they call it the silver revolution or tidal wave is coming. I mean, it's already here. People need places to stay. And so we're multifamily, all these different areas. And then one of the things I do is keep my finger on the pulse with all of our associations to advocate to keep private property rights in a good place. And the best place that we're involved with to do that is the National Association of Realtors. And again, people need just to keep understanding this is the best investment you could make. And it looks like this year I'm getting close to my $50,000 mark for my investment in the Realtors Political Action Committee. So I'm getting close. So we'll see if I can go over the hump this year. But there's not a better investment than NAR to be able to help make sure to fight for all of us for private property rights. And I will tell you some new information I don't think I told last time. So I love advocating on behalf of the 1031 Like-Kind Exchange with all of our different national associations. But out of everybody in America, the one guy who lives in a congressional district whose congresswoman has put a bill in to eliminate the 1031 is me. So my Congresswoman Delia Ramirez here in Illinois has put a bill in to eliminate the 1031, and we're it won't go anywhere at this moment. So it's a back burner issue. But if things change quickly in Congress and at the national level, on a dime, it all can change. And so I've been meeting with her staff to explain the importance of the 1031. And so it's very important that we are able to reach out to progressive congressional folks. And so we're working with some of our union friends to be able to help us in working. And the other aspect of things is that we also happen to be friends. I'm personal friends with Jonathan Jackson, who's a congressman, and here in Chicago, I'm going to be honored to attend the Reverend Jesse Jackson's funeral, which will be on Saturday. But Jonathan is a MBA business person, and he's personally done 1031 Like-Kind exchanges. So having Democrats in Congress that know the 1031 and have worked hard with it been successful with them, I think that's a big benefit.
Well, and I renewed for my National Association of Realtors. I encourage others to do the same. We've talked about this on this show. The advocacy it provides on top of the plumbing and the roads and the framework that is the envy of the world in our licensing, in our ethics, right? In our code of ethics. There's so much there to pay for, happily pay for, mind you, including the 1031 exchange. Matter of fact, this farmland behind me would not exist if not for, and it's not farmland anymore, not for the 1031 exchange we completed.
Absolutely.
Buy the land and then build that.
And Andreas, why is that? Because farmers are dirt rich and cash poor, and they would never sell that if they had to do that, because their basis is back at start off 120 years ago probably for people. So that's a big deal.
And it's well, not just farmers, right? As you mentioned, that silver wave that is happening includes a lot of owners of real estate who have to sell property because they need to transfer that wealth, that generational wealth. And they thought their kids may or may not inherit and run it. And many have found that that is not the case. They actually are going to need to sell it and reposition everything ahead of time. And that doesn't happen without the 1031 exchange.
Amen.
Even with all the advocacy and all the marketing and all NAR does and others, there are so many owners who are so scared of making that sale because they don't want to give a third to the taxman.
Right.
They just don't know. So it's our job.
Dan, you're going to Downers Grove. You guys are moving to Downers Grove. That's pretty close to Woodstock, and Woodstock's where they filmed Groundhog's Day. Did you guys 1031 into the in Downers Grove?
Actually, Downers Grove is not near Woodstock, but it is about a mile from Oak Brook. So we are not. We didn't 1031. We are able to. I shouldn't say that what we're doing, but we're going to be leasing our new offices, and the capital. Our CFO is deploying the capital in the appropriate fashion that any 58-year-old real estate company would know how to do. That's an expert on 1031. So I know that it's going to be put to good use, and it's going to be a good thing for our economy. But it is pretty crazy living, being in a place for so long, for 22 years, and then you got to pick up and go to a different place. And I think it just reminds us that change is constant. And one of my mentors and my second dad was Dan Goodwin, who passed away a couple of years ago, that you've honored on this show. He always taught me that real estate is a tool for business, and not to get caught up in letting it be this personal aspect, because it's there to help business and help grow your company. And so this is this building was a great tool for us, where this outside company needed this property, and we were able to sell, as the old saying goes. You buy low and sell high. So, it's always a good thing when that kind of thing happens. And just knowing that this is, this real estate's a tool, but you still have those wonderful feelings that are attached to it. And so I wear my heart in my sleeve. So there will be I'm sure I will shed a tear once I see the cranes coming to knock the place down. So
my AI tells me that Downers Grove is 56 miles from Woodstock.
Yeah.
But AI does hallucinate. It might be further. No.
56. It might be. Well, it could be 56 to Woodstock. Yeah, it could be.
It is very good at reading maps. It does not hallucinate that way. Yeah. But and as a fun exercise, if we asked whatever respective AI what Inland is doing now that they're selling this, what would they do? I'd be curious at the different outcomes we would see. And
well, pretty soon it'll say who's going to go here, but I think they have to. That company has to go before the city of or village of Oak Brook before I can mention that. So I don't want to be fired.
Could be you heard it here first. Both the firing and the don't. Oh, joining us late, Darren Hayes, CEO, Code Detectives, and Professor Pace University. Speaking of AI, cyber, and all of those items, Darren, always nice to see you as well, my friend. Welcome back.
Good to see everyone.
Yes, welcome. Are you stateside?
Yes, I am.
We were just talking on AI and how Inland has sold after after many years. They've been around for 58 years. They haven't been at that location for the entirety, have they?
No, we were started by 4 Chicago school teachers that had nothing, and so the first place was a little old tiny little office on Narragansett in Chicago, and so yeah, it's come full circle where we purchased, I think it's 56 billion worth of commercial real estate in every state except Alaska. So we're the largest independent commercial real estate company,
And the creators of the DST.
and the creators of the Delaware Statutory Trust 1031 Like-County Exchange.
Fair enough.
I love that plug.
Well, and credit where credit's due. There's a lot of founders and originators on this call. Saul, you mentioned some rain, and rain is okay. We're here in icy weather. The rest of us, Northeast Chicago, in brutal times. But speaking of first time, and you heard it here first, I do want to give a shout out to the pending announcement for a bleeding edge technology in predictive analytics that is actually grading properties in real time using predictive AI to account for real world changes, degradation. And I'll give the simplest example I can. What if a system would tell you on every asset you have in your portfolio, based on weather events and the real economics in play locally, when an asset has degraded ahead of schedule? That 30-year roof is never really a 30-year roof. A system that could not only do that for your roof, but your windows. And if we can do that across an entire community and across those roofs and those windows and those buildings, then based on the permits and the growth, we would now be able to predict with more accuracy the edge of growth and where growth is going ahead of the actual investments. So very excited. Tune in for that sector expert interview, going to be taped next Monday, going to be released later this month, where we will announce this stealth startup coming out to the market with a couple million square feet under their belt. It's quite exciting. Saul's going to be joining me for that. So that's a long way from Realtor Information Network.
Well, Andreas, that's a fascinating concept if you think about it, right? So if you think about income producing real property, the value of income producing property is directly related to the income the property produces, and specifically the net income and the net operating income. And that's exclusive of the debt service. And one thing that people are not necessarily good at is estimating. While it's easy to look at a tax return and see what the expenses were last year, but then to take the age of the different components of the property and then stretch that out to see when you're going to have to replace certain things, and when there's actual depreciation, and factor that into the value, because the value, you can't trade what you can't grade. And so it is, to me, when you brought this up, just a fascinating idea to utilize AI to help you get closer to the future operating expenses of a commercial asset. So that'll be fun.
And nobody's selling you on their services. The roofer that comes out to look at that roof, I mean, he's selling you a service. I have Carlson Integrated has been nice enough to sign with us, hopefully, on a new website. I was wary of a new website, right? It was another thing to buy and spend money on. But Carlson has done great for her clients, so my board approved them as our vendor. Excited to work with them. But whenever what Saul is mentioning on the grading and understanding of expenses, it's great to look at a very detailed list. But as a property manager, second, broker first, sending guys out, they're giving us their opinion. Their opinion, everyone's opinion in some level is based in some level, right? It's going to be biased to their need, depending on who you use in some way. And so will AI. I'm sure Darren can attest this, but this system represents, in my mind, from what I've seen, the closest thing to an independent evaluator that can look at things at such a broader scale and with such accuracy. It's really going to be incredible. Super excited to announce it in that show, and to the institutional real estate investment managers at the Lunch and Learn later this month that I'm speaking to. So it's an exciting month for sure. Lots of things happening. Hopefully I won't have to go on the road like you did, Saul, to 700 different or 600 different MLSs to connect the data. Things have changed a bit.
Yeah, I hope not. For your sake.
Hey, look at where you are now, though, right? I mean, that would be a fun road trip today. Speaking of road trips and where we are today, Darren, you drop in on us now and again. What's the latest and greatest on your sector as we we head into the half hour here?
Okay, so there are quite a few things. The latest thing I've been reading about is University of Hawaii and a major ransomware breach that has impacted information dating back to the 1990s. They mentioned something like 87,000 social security numbers exposed, and ransomware still remains a huge problem. The other thing as well is criminal ecosystem was disrupted. So this organization, international organization, Leak-Base Cybercrime Forum, which is a marketplace for stolen credentials, with 142,000 users, was just taken down by a coalition of quite a number of international law enforcement agencies. They took down global operation tycoon two-factor authentication phishing as a service platform used to target over 500,000 organizations monthly. So pretty big operation. And then the other thing that we're all reading about what's happening with Iran at the moment and the war there. And, we haven't seen anything yet, but Iranian hackers are very well known for attacking critical infrastructure. And so there is this concern that maybe they might hit infrastructure that they've hit before, such as international banking system, energy, such as oil, water utilities, maybe even election infrastructure. So lots of interesting things going on at the moment in the world of cybersecurity.
Darren, I got a question for you real quick. So I was using my Verizon phone the last couple of days, and I swear to God, I wasn't getting a signal during most of the day yesterday. And I thought, could this be, in the back of my mind, is this something coming from Iran? Is that could they actually infiltrate our the satellites?
I don't think so, but who knows? I mean, they could be targeting telecommunication systems, but traditionally, what they have targeted are kind of utility companies. They were known to attack like oil production in Middle Eastern countries. I believe Saudi Arabia, Aramco was one of those in the past. So this, I guess, is one of the fears, is because the government there has been known to use hackers for many of their cyber attacks. So it's yet another vector for the Iranian government to attack the U.S. or other Western nations. It's something they've done in the past, but we haven't seen it yet. But it could very well happen.
Well, and speaking of cyber and insurance and likelihood, right, Dan, that question about Verizon being hacked, I remember being viciously hacked, and I remember Darren being the one to say, "You're not crazy. All these things are in fact happening." Because the genius at the Apple Store had no clue, right? So it is happening. Ransomware is happening. It is. Let's be honest. Real estate brokers and brokerages have an immense amount of financial data. And most real estate brokerages, if the average deal maker is even near the silver wave, their technology is generally not as protected as others. So I think, Darren, you'd agree the reason they attack infrastructure or other areas is they're weaker in their security, right, in the cyber of it all, but very powerful in what they do. Similar to brokers, we carry a lot, we have a lot of information, and for many, cybersecurity may not be a top concern. So the pro tip I'm going to give to our audience is to ensure that you have a cybersecurity policy attached to any errors and omissions insurances you carry as a property manager, as a broker, and so on. I mean, Saul, you're running an MLS. You have a warehouse of data, right? And whether you have a warehouse of data, whether you're sitting in the Museum for Ape, Lincoln there at Inland, over there with Dan, who has its own security, right? That you have to be wary of all these things, whether they're cyber, whether it's your phone, all of them are points of access. That's the scary thing. AI has made it incredibly.
Yeah, I mean, we did have that NSO Group, I believe they were in Israel, and they had been developing malware for phones. And so there was Pegasus, the first version, and then the second version, which basically was sold to quite a number of different governments. And it was even sold, I think, maybe to the Mexican government at one point, which could be used to infiltrate investigative journalists. But it was sold to quite a number of countries that could use it for bad purposes. So don't click on any links through text messages, especially if they're not from somebody you know, because very often that's how this malware is sent. And just make sure that you always keep your updated to the latest version of iOS or Android, because that's always a big vulnerability for this type of malware, which is used to monitor all your calls. They get a copy of your text messages and your other communications. So something to be aware of.
Then they
You know,
steal
they're
your
so
commission.
sophisticated, Darren. They're so sophisticated now. It seems I get email, or I get copy. People send email to my accounting department that knows about me, that knows about people in my accounting department, and instructs them to pay money with my signature, not a signature, but my name at the bottom, as if the email came from me.
Yes. And it's very easy to fall for those scams. There are people in the world of cybersecurity who fall for those scams. So be very careful. And what you're saying is really true, because there's a lot of data breach information out there. And if you had, for example, an Instagram account or Facebook account, they can make those connections between people that you know or family members. And that's a really effective, sophisticated social engineering attack.
Yeah.
And it's all about your data, and our data is valuable. And the end result on the brokerage side is the man in the middle. They take the money and run. Right? Your commissions, many firms wire fees left and right, whether you're buying or selling or funds in general. So I will follow up and say, if you are wiring funds and or receiving wired funds, be sure to talk with the person, confirm that trusted numbers, because it's a real thing. One of the biggest scams that I don't want to say cracked me up, or one of the scams that became prevalent during COVID that continues today, are people selling land that they don't own, right? Large pieces of land, the owner's out of state, especially during COVID. We had multiple land tracts sold in Connecticut, not by our firm, not by anyone I know personally, that the owners were non-existent. They didn't know the land had transacted. They found out when they came to visit, or by way of some notice, not at the transaction, not at permitting. We're talking post-construction, final walkthroughs, and everybody got sued. But that's what insurance is for, and things do happen. So sorry to take us down this spin here. Becca, you mentioned conference season. You mentioned everybody getting ready. You're busy. We're busy on Connecticut brokerage wise. Healthcare data centers. I am curious on the inland side and on the data breach side, because we've got Darren here, or the data side. As far as AI and infrastructure, right? Doggies, daycares, continued care. Those are all money makers, for us as brokers. Now we've created an entirely new asset class, and that's for the AI infrastructure, right? Data warehouses and so on. Data centers is how they're called. I'm curious around the room, has this impacted every other sector, and what you're hearing? Saul, you're on my right in California. I know data centers are a big thing there, but I'll let you go first.
Yeah, well, they are, and you read about it every day. And probably one of the most interesting things that I've run across in this area has to do with the cost to power them. Mm-hmm. And of course, we all know that they eat a lot of energy, but this idea of split energy rates and actually charging data centers a greater amount, a premium amount for their energy, makes a lot of sense to me. So yeah, there's going to be many data centers. There's a lot of money being spent to to finance, to build these things, and they're going to, I think, provide amazing benefits to people, but they take a lot of power. So what's the power solution going to be? And this was one of the first good ideas. Well, everyone should have their own nuclear power plant. That's a good idea, maybe. And because we got a lot of nuclear power plants in San Diego, and you look out into the bay and you see all these number of ships that are all powered, nuclear power. They're all individual power plants, and they can run things. And so it makes a lot of sense. But the idea of charging more for the data centers, that also makes sense to me. So it's a big area and fun to watch.
Well, and then as far as many nuclear power plants or an at-home nuclear power source, I hope to live for the day that my house is a smart house and talks to me like on TV or the Jetsons. We'll see. We've done most of it. But as far as the data centers, what's exciting to me is the realization it's not just powering them, it's cooling them. And here in Connecticut, we have multiple super sites, brownfields that have just sat forever. And there are many of which are mill properties, right? There's water coming through them. There's power right there at the site. And there's a lot we could do if we can unlock that asset. So we're trying to. In many cases, many states everywhere are desperate to. Dan, how about on the inland side? Is inland going to be an investor in data warehouses?
We are not. Inland will not be an investor in data warehouses. We're not. That's not in our bailiwick. We looked into that, but the costs are very astronomical, and the politics now here in Illinois, our governor put forth his budget, and he took away the incentives that Illinois had for data centers. Near us is the third largest city in Illinois is Naperville, which is a suburb of Chicago. Naperville had a data center that was going to go into where Lucid Technology had their headquarters. That they went out of business, and they this huge building. The developer tore it down, thinking it's not near homes. This is going to be a no-brainer. And then the city council at the last minute voted to not build a data center because citizens were crazed at the thought, like Saul said, of the cost of electricity, that was going to increase everybody's rates. And then the environmental folks were very upset about the amount of water it takes to cool. Now, there's now in self-enclosed systems, self-contained water systems, so it doesn't use a ton of water. But politics it's been very interesting because the future are data centers. We have to have data centers, but here in Illinois, being a pretty blue state, we're tapping the brakes on that, and that's going to be difficult. The other aspect with Illinois is that a few years ago they passed a law to get rid of natural gas. And right now in 2045, they're gonna turn off the natural gas in Illinois, and that we're hoping that the Illinois Chamber is working, and I'm the chair and the acting CEO and president of it. We're working to try to repeal that law because natural gas is such a clean burning energy, and it's a wonderful source that you have to have in this 40 degrees below zero weather that we get in Chicago. And so that's a major issue is the whole thing of energy related to data centers. Because if you are going to put a data center in, a perfect thing to do is have a natural gas peaker power plant, and that'll be perfect for it. But those are now banned for future in Illinois. So we're going to try to repeal that law. We think we have a chance, but the incentives for our data centers here in Illinois have been greatly taken back. So politics is an ever ongoing thing in the world, and that's the realities that we're facing.
Well, and you're facing, right? Because you're in the politics of it all every day. The shifting over to Becca, from the marketing and the investment side, data centers and the like, right? Because you're on both sides, but you actually get to hear from the people investing in these. Are your clients investing?
It is fascinating. And I would say there are so many nuances to this conversation, and where marketing has unfolded or played a role or not played any role, and therefore public perception has turned incredibly negative. It is fascinating. There should be a case study done on how the emergence and the emergence, plateau, disintegration of the popularity of the data center is mind-boggling, in all seriousness. And I say that the community just north of me, one of my very good friends and who is a NICAR participant and a lender, is a trustee, and they said yes and went through the process for they're building a data center, and that data center is valued more than like all of the other properties in the entire community
Wow.
combined. The
Wow.
one data center, right? There's tremendous value associated with it. And that municipality then had some criteria around it. I happened to be talking to a friend of another friend who has joined a company recently based in Texas that does cooling systems that are not water-based at all for data centers. So I connected them so they could have the conversations and things like that. And I don't know if anything ever came of that, and that was last fall. But since that time, I have been on numerous networking groups and presentations online, and people start talking about data centers, and suddenly, over the past 6 months, I've started seeing this resistance and this frustration. And I think it is this narrative that's been put forth around how bad data centers are. My young adult and teenage daughters will not use AI. They say they will never use it because that's why we need data centers that are ruining the environment. And some of that is just public perception, but perception becomes reality. It's fascinating how there has been a push towards younger generations, and then it really is making them change what they would do. And there's not just resistance, but anger that these older generations are ruining the planet for them by having data centers. This is fascinating. Obviously, I have to diffuse and okay, guys, slow down here. We all have to use technology, and there are solutions around some of those environmental concerns. But I think it is interesting to see how the hype plays and how it impacts what policy becomes. So the perception of maybe even a less educated population becomes reality. Even I've heard established professionals parrot back the water case over the past several weeks, and I'm the only one saying, yeah, there are other solutions out there. Not every data center uses water. Oh, and by the way, municipalities get to have constraints around what they allow in their community. Oh, and private property rights, shouldn't somebody be able to sell their land to be whatever they want it to be, within legal guidelines? So it's bringing up some conversations that I think are, and I'm a chronic advocate for private property rights. It is so important to me that people have the opportunity, because I don't want somebody telling me what I can do in my house. I have a cat. It's my house. What if somebody didn't like cats? No cats in the community. Okay, fine. It's just not appropriate, and it's not right. So like I said, this could be a very, very interesting and fascinating case study to put together. And maybe I'll even take a stab at it, because this one is just very interesting. And I don't know if you guys are seeing some of those kind of public perception pieces come into play as well. But I could not say in my house, I love data centers.
Well,
I would be kicked out of my house by my children.
Wow.
So I'm going to ask the professor on the call, the professor in front of the children, well, in front of the young adults out of Pace University. I mean, is this what we're hearing on your side? Because AI has got to be impacting cybersecurity in universities. You're the closest, I think you're the closest one at this point, given your work with Pace. Darren, are you hearing the similar outcry? Is the public against it, younger public?
I haven't heard an outcry against it because of that, but I think, I don't know whether this percentage is true or not, but I did hear somebody say that 90% of computer energy is the cooling. And that sounds probably about right. And you run into big problems with cooling when you talk about, for example, cryptocurrency, which has also been expanding just like AI. And I've heard about people talking about data centers in the Antarctic, for example, or the Arctic, because of the cost of cooling and the electricity associated with that. But AI also has, similar issues with data centers and the electrical, the pressure it puts on the electrical grid, which hasn't kept pace with the needs for these data centers. So I could kind of understand that, and there are people in those areas who are complaining about that. I think from the academic side, the two issues are, number one, what they call AI guardrails, and making sure that your intellectual property is not being compromised because people are misusing AI and uploading sensitive information, which becomes part of that AI information center. But also, I know a lot of colleagues who've written books who were part of that lawsuit. I'm one of those people who are, this class action lawsuit, just by default, by having a book that I wrote that was used for training this AI model. I think it's maybe Anthropic. But I know somebody who had maybe 6 books that were used to train that AI model. So a lot of people's intellectual property was used without their knowledge for training these AI models. I think that's more of a concern on the academic side than maybe the data centers
themselves, right? So AI is terrifying and exhilarating. And this is what happens when I talk about it and teach about it, and we talk about cameras and privacy and all these things. If the younger generation doesn't use that AI to understand where we're going and how to do things, well, that's just more opportunity for those that have the skill set and the experience to do those things. I dare say, and I kid, I'm joking. I mean, Saul, to me, Saul brought up a great point. We need nuclear generator. We need nuclear power in every house. And then maybe we can continue to have these conversations. And I speak from experience, we're tech enabled from start to finish at this point, and it is expensive without factoring in electricity and all of the things we just touched on from a development standpoint and the constraints and moratoriums. And there's so much going on here. And as a new asset class, everybody's asking. The one thing I get asked more often, it's either AI and the use of it, or someone selling me on a way to use it. And then the second is now data centers. Why should we invest, or could we invest? Thank you, everyone, for being so candid on what they're doing. But I'm pretty sure if AI came knocking to Saul to run the car wash, if it made more money and the numbers were there, I think we'd let it. We'd be hard pressed not to. Is that a fair statement?
We're waiting for AI robots to facilitate the vacuuming of your car, and so we'll adapt.
Yeah, but and somebody's got to train the robot even to do that, and the human, and then people will pay extra for the human touch to do the extra details.
Well, in Chicago, we got some controversy about those robots. There's some delivery robots that are on the sidewalks. And
Really?
if you heard of this too, in Chicago, people are really upset about them, that they're running into people or they're slowing them down. And so it's it's part of capitalism. Hey, if it's going to work, you got to give it a try. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So we love our country. It's the whole world of if it works, it'll work. If it doesn't, it won't.
So I'm an advocate, and I've said this to y'all before, right? I'm a total advocate for this. I believe that your wildest dream is not wild enough. And so you can't imagine in your wildest dream where this is going to end up. And I'm very optimistic that for the most part, it'll all end up on the good side, and we'll have a much better world for it in the long run. And yeah, there's going to be some problems along the way, but that's the way it always works. And it's going to bring opportunities. And as I say, the buggy whip factories went out of business a long time ago, but other businesses come into being, and we all do fine, and we'll all find plenty of things to do. And of course, I can say that because I celebrated my 77th birthday this last week.
Wow! Congratulations!
Oh, great.
With my grandchildren and my great grandchildren, and so they're the ones that are going to have to deal with it. and I'm a spectator at this point, just watching enthusiastically.
Well, Saul, congratulations! And I have to I have to warn myself all the time. My great grandfather, he actually didn't think the Model T was a good thing, so he invested all of his money in a Surrey company, and he went he went bankrupt. So I have to my natural instinct is to say no, that's not going to work, and then so I got to always remember that.
Yeah, one thing I would say is I actually just saw a report. It may have been from the Bureau of Labor, but they were talking about the number of jobs that are going to be created by AI. I'm trying to talk to my son about this new degree program at Pace University in AI. I think, I said, no matter what you want to get into once you graduate, if you have a degree in AI, I think it can open a lot of doors and opportunities for you.
Well, and that's and to Saul's point, back to everyone, right? The beautiful country we live in thrives on making money and innovating, and to innovate, something has to be created, and something does get replaced, but it's not the people; it's just their job titles in many cases. At least where I said, we're already coming to the top of the hour here with this month's show here in March, our third show of the year, as we keep on keeping on growing. No longer exponentially, but accelerating in our stickiness, in our repeat audience. Maybe some AI bots in there, I don't know. And maybe I can collect on some money being made from the show being teaching AI. I don't know. We will see, certainly. So what's the biggest piece of advice you want to give the audience? Because you're not just a spectator, not to this group, certainly not to this audience, and certainly not to the MLS you run. So
Well, since we're talking about AI, I'll go back to things I've said in the past, and that is you have to experiment. You can't be afraid to go in and prompt an AI model and then prompt it again and then prompt it again and just see where it ends up taking you. Have conversations with it. And so familiarity is very, very important. When I was a midshipman at the Naval Academy, computer systems, this is back in the 1960s, and computer systems were just entering the scene, and the academic department passed a regulation. They said to every professor, no matter what you teach, you have to have some computer requirement in your course. It doesn't matter whether you're teaching mechanical engineering or organizational psychology. You have to input something where people have to use the computer. And the idea behind that was people were afraid of computers, and the way you overcome the fear is by using it. And sure enough, we all overcame the fear of using the computer. So I would say AI, if you have any doubts at all, start to use it, start to just query it, and you'd be surprised where you'll end up.
And even if you don't mean to, you probably are already, right? Google now defaults to AI. It's not a question of when. It's not a question of if. It's when, and you are all day, every day. Dan, over to you in Inland, and Inland has a few AI awards, so careful here in your advice.
So I'm gonna go to the left field and totally go off script because the one thing I do want to highlight is the government guy. In Illinois, St. Patrick's Day, March 17th is the primary day to vote. And all around the country, there's primaries happening at different times. And of course, November is the election day for the general election. And I always highlight to our folks in the real estate community that many government leaders consider us to be their piggy banks. And so it's very important in regards to AI rules and regulations, in regards to anything related to our world. You got to make sure that you're electing people who understand what private property rights is about. So I make sure go get registered to vote, go research, and then go vote. But you can obviously talk to your National Association of Realtors. You could talk to your state, your local, to find out who are the realtor-friendly, commercial, residential-friendly elected officials. And I can't, say that louder. You got to go and research.
100%. Over to the right. Well, on my screen to the right, Becca, you're next in line here.
Convention season's coming, folks.
Can we ask AI to do our marketing for us
Go for it.
or hire someone?
Or hire someone. The reality is that you can, and many people do use AI to help quantify those messages and those outbound research. Most organizations can and should keep the attendee lists behind a paywall or something, so that isn't publicly available on AI, right? We do have like privacy pieces that you want to really honor and that are important to honor, especially if you are a member of an organization. So going in and looking for somebody who you might want to meet and sending them an email would be appropriate.
As opposed to uploading
the list and putting it into public facing AI, really not appropriate. Not at all. It goes against all sorts of things that you should be doing from an ethical standpoint. So be judicious about your use of AI in your marketing, as I'm sure everybody is already thinking about those privacy concerns and what they're doing with that data. But yes, like tell people people can't meet with you if they don't know you're going to be there. Tell them you're going to be there. Schedule times. Get together, maximize your opportunity in those big groups of people. So that's my biggest recommendation at going into convention season.
Love it. Darren, I'm scared to ask you, what is your biggest recommendation for those coming out of this show and just in general, from where you sit?
Yeah, just to keep pace with what's going on. There are several executive orders out there. So, for example, one of the executive orders from the Trump administration basically bans state regulation of AI, but also there is this part of this another AI executive order promoting rapid build out of data centers. And one of the other ones that happened just a couple of days ago was an executive order banning federal use of Anthropic AI for anybody who wants to do work with the U.S. government, the federal government.
Right, because I leaned into what Saul said while he said it, to prompt AI for anything and everything. So in line with work for the government and so on, and AI and replacing jobs, my prompt was simple. What are the latest AI roles in commercial real estate? And as I mentioned earlier, not one of them speaks to replacing anyone. Matter of fact, in more than one vertical here, we have AI investment analyst, AI augmented analyst. None of them are in replacement of. They are augmented intelligence specialists, in the fancy summary at the bottom, because I'm a huge fan of Copilot, not public facing, right? Was positioning yourself and your team in one or two workflows with AI that AI, cannot be a solution, a one-all solution anywhere across. It's does one thing, does it very well. Hopefully not sharing client lists or uploading. The example I gave our audience last month was using AI to look over someone's personal financial records to tell if they were a good credit, what we would call a high credit tenant, right? A high credit person. Because by doing so, without redacting that information, and we didn't do this, the owner did. He did it without us. He didn't want to share the information, and he went out there and put a tenant's information up without asking us. And we didn't give it to him, the tenant did, because the tenant had the same idea. Oh, I want to share it with as few people as possible. Well, no, share it with the right people in this case. So AI is accelerating those of us who choose to use it at incredible speed and providing incredible scale. And by those of us that choose to use it, CCIM, NAR, all of the top tier performers across marketing, all of it, institutional, we're all using it in one form or another, if not many. So that is my one statement to the audience. And I know Saul would say, well, you said 3 years ago in the show early on not to use it. Saul, I'm retracting my publicly made statement and now fully bought in. It's still a day one intern, But combine a day one intern with somebody with intelligence and experience, and you have a powerhouse. And now we can do that at scale. So in that regard, it's incredible. I want to thank each of you for joining me once a month for this show. I know our audience wants to thank you. We continue to make this show completely sponsor free, only partner free. Great conversation, great candid conversation. To Dan's earlier off script comment, none of it's scripted. It's all completely candid. And clearly the audience keeps coming back for more. So thank you again to everyone tuning in. Please do rate and review us. It really does help. And we look forward to seeing you next month on CRECo.ai Roundtable. Thank you.
Great
Bye,
seeing you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the Real Estate Roundtable, powered by CRECo.ai, your source for the latest in real estate and technology. For past episodes, sector interviews, and more great content, follow us on all social media and YouTube at CRECollaborative. You can also find us anywhere you listen to podcasts. Please like, subscribe, and share. It really does help. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you at the next Real Estate Roundtable.